Elizabeth, great to see you again. Look, you're in Florida, so I'm sure you're bracing for an influx of New Yorkers after Zohran Mamdani's win. And it's interesting, Mamdani won the New York City mayoral race in a landslide, promising free everything, free buses, rent freezes, promising that the cost of living crisis will be solved under him. And it's interesting, just 3 weeks after his win, he's still calling on donations. Look at this.
My friends, it is fall in New York. The leaves, they are changing. The air, it is crisp. But one thing that stays the same is we still need you to donate to transition2025.com. So head there, give whatever you can. Maybe leave a donation.
Now, Mamdani has raised $2 million for his transition into office, which is half of his goal of $4 million by his inauguration on January 1. What do you make of watching Mamdani there shamelessly asking for money for his transition team? You know, he's about to be on more than $250,000 per year as mayor of New York City. Of course, the minimum wage in New York City is around $16.50 an hour, so he's doing well. He'll also be living rent-free in Gracie Mansion, which is the official mayoral residence, and he's asking New Yorkers to cough up after promising free everything. What do you make of this?
I mean, look, it's not surprising, right? Those that have a little bit of common sense understand that this is exactly how this works. You promise people that you will solve all of their problems, then you take everything that they have, and they end up in a worse place than when you started. It's kind of classic in our country that people continue to fall for these things when a lot of those in America that make up America, that are proud to be Americans, fled from places that sell you a very similar message. But we know from history it never actually works. There's a reason so many immigrants come here and talk every single day against this exact kind of messaging, because they know what happens. They know what happens with socialism. They know what happens under communism. They know how great it sounds, but how horrific the results always end up being. And I just hope that people learn their lessons. I was born and raised in New York. I love New York. I still go there probably every other week. I have family in New York. It's always going to be home for me. But to see New York become this place has been really, really sad to witness. At the same time, people have to learn the hard way. That's all that I keep saying. He's an incredible salesman. I just don't know how great those ideas are. And unfortunately, sometimes people fall for that charming smile and not for, the actual backing up of the ideas that he doesn't seem to be able to do. It's not complicated to know that this free bus, this free everything is not going to work, nor will it make anyone's life any better. But some people live a very, very privileged life. I live one in New York, in Florida, in America. I'm a very lucky person, having been born and raised in America. And if my parents didn't flee this very socialism, communism, these very ideas, I wouldn't know those dangers. And it's very easy when you live a privileged American life to not know how bad things can really get. So unfortunately, people in New York are going to find out. But sometimes that's kind of the best way to learn.
Yeah, and as you say, they may be finding out the hard way. Mamdani has expanded the breadth of his transition team as he prepares to take office in January, and it's been revealed that Alex Vital is part of the team leading community safety. Now, he's the author of a book called The End of Policing, and just as the title suggests, the book argues for disbanding or drastically reducing many of the roles that police currently play. It challenges the assumption that more policing equals more safety. Here he is making the case to defund the police.
More recently, we also hear the language of invest, divest, or defund police to invest in communities, but it's never just about cutting the police. It's always about also investing in these targeted evidence-based strategies to produce safety without all the collateral consequences that inherently come with policing.
Elizabeth, and this is the person Mamdani has brought on to lead community safety in New York City.
Right. In that clip you just played, he said inherent consequences that come with policing. All I can think about is the consequences that come with a lack of policing, right? That's all that I tend to think about. Look, again, this is the kind of thing where you have to learn the hard way. It's a very fun utopia to visualize a world without police and a city that runs itself, where everything is free and there is no crime and everyone high fives each other as they walk by and everyone wants prosperity for all. Unfortunately, that's not the world that we live in. We need police. We should respect our police. We should thank God people still want to risk their lives and go into that field to try to keep their communities safe. I think this is absolutely ridiculous, but it's not just about the idea. That's that's ridiculous. It's also just the lie, because Mamdani is someone who previously spoke very, very negatively about police. He said some disgusting things about the NYPD. And then I think we had that shooting in New York where people were murdered, 4 people, including a police officer. That's when he came out and apologized and said that he's rethought some of his, prior statements on police. And now it seems as though none of that is true, of course, as we all knew. And he actually hates the police, just like a lot of privileged, white, upper scale New Yorkers do, who have their own security and don't need police. And it's usually the people that actually are struggling every single day that need to be helped, that need the police to keep their community safe, and that actually want to be told they can make it in this country instead of being told the opposite. It all kind of goes together. And again, unfortunately, it's a lesson that has to be learned. I pray nobody gets hurt in the process, but we learned a long time ago when Democrats tried to push this message, the majority of Americans do not believe that a city without police is a better city.
No, absolutely not. Look, finally, on Mamdani, before we move on from him, we saw him meeting Donald Trump last week, and he went on to go on a news network to claim that Donald Trump is still a fascist in his view, and he couldn't even bring himself to give Donald Trump credit when it came to securing the border. Look at this.
Do you agree with Senator Bernie Sanders that President Trump has done a better job securing the border than former President Biden?
I haven't thought much about comparing presidents on the question of securing the border. I think it's important that it's secure, and I also think it's important that we have an immigration system that is humane. And that's what I spoke about with the president, is that New Yorkers want to see humanity in the policies that are being implemented.
Do you give President Trump some credit for the work that he's done to make the border, in Senator Sanders' estimation, more secure?
What I give President Trump credit for is the meeting that we had yesterday was one that was focused on how we could work together for New Yorkers. And the place that we could do so most effectively, frankly, is ensuring every New Yorker can afford the city they call home.
Elizabeth, he couldn't give Donald Trump credit for securing the border. I mean, such an extraordinary achievement that he achieved in such a short time. But he did give the president credit for meeting with him. I mean, what does that say about Mamdani?
I mean, I'll let people decide for themselves. But look, how can you go out there and give anyone credit for securing the border when the majority of your own voters don't believe that we should have a secured border to begin with, right? If you don't believe we should have security, if you don't believe we should have a system that favors those that want to come in legally, if your supporters actually support the opposite of that, you definitely are not going to go out and thank Donald Trump for all the hard work that he's done, focused on the border, but focused on immigration in general. That's obvious. I'm glad he gave him some credit for meeting with him. I actually give them both credit for meeting with each other. I'm sure both of them didn't expect to, have such a pleasant meeting. And I think for those of us that know Donald Trump, like we do now for 10 years, I expected a very pleasant meeting. I tell everyone, you'll be surprised how charming he is when you're in a room with him. At the same time, I don't know how Mamdani supporters felt seeing him, so chummy next to Donald Trump, who they believe is, a fascist and Hitler and God knows what else. But we will see what happens when he gets into office, right? Because it's great to get along. It's not so great if Donald Trump has to sit down and watch you tear apart the city that he loves so much. And that's when things are going to get a little difficult.
Now, sorry to do this to you, Elizabeth, but we're going from Mamdani to Hillary Clinton because she's revealed that she's been dreaming about Donald Trump. Here she is speaking at an event saying that she's been dreaming about the day that Trump is gone.
You know what this reminds me of is I wish that there could be like a huge national sound system. And we would all wake up and they'd say, attention, attention, we have found the problem and we have solved it. He is gone.
Then she laughs and laughs. It's so bizarre. She thought it was a good idea to, one, say this, and then she posted it on social media. I mean, proud of the dream that she's had that Donald Trump is gone, speaking clearly to her TDS suffering audience.
I mean, talk about living rent-free in someone's head. Look, it's kind of just sad at this point. The whole thing, I like the word you use, it's just bizarre. At the same time, if you really think about it, this is someone who was told by the entire Democrat Party and establishment that she was going to be president, at least in her lifetime. She thought she was going to be president when she ended up losing to Barack Obama. And she thought it was guaranteed when she went up and they took the votes again from Bernie Sanders, gave it to her, gave her that platform, gave her the spot, gave her the nomination. She thought Donald Trump would be no competition for her. She got demolished, obviously, in one of the craziest upsets, I'd say, in American history, certainly in political history worldwide. And I think for her, it's something that's going to haunt her till the end of her days. And that's kind of what happens when you believe that you are better than the American people and you know better than the American people, sometimes you end up with a really, really rude awakening. That's what she did. And I really wish that with all the connections that she had, all the money that she's earned, by the way, on the backs of the American people, she could spend her days trying to give back and show the world what kind of leader she could have been instead of talking trash about Donald Trump. But I'm not going to hold my breath.
Now, we've got to move on to Greta Thunberg. Sorry, probably another person we don't really need to waste time on, but Greta Thunberg, the climate activist, has been slapped with a 48-hour ban from entering Venice after joining Extinction Rebellion protesters in dyeing the Grand Canal bright green. So she was fined, or reportedly fined, $172, and the group argued the stunt was designed to draw attention to the massive effects of the climate collapse. This does not surprise me whatsoever. I mean, what was Greta Thunberg supposed to do after Donald Trump, brokered the ceasefire deal in Gaza and between Gaza and Israel, bringing peace to the Middle East? What was Greta Thunberg supposed to do? Of course, she obviously tried to attempt to go into Gaza many times, claiming that she was kidnapped when she wasn't able to go in. So it was only a matter of time until she was going to go back to climate alarmism.
You're right. I hadn't even thought about that with the war over, people not dying. She's bored. She doesn't even know what to do. She doesn't know what to lie about anymore. I guess, going around and dying bodies of water is the answer to all of her problems. That's another one that could spend her days giving back, right? There's a lot that you can do. It's Thanksgiving week here in America. Most of us are volunteering, thinking about what we're thankful for, giving back to our communities. This is someone else who has a lot of recognition, I'm sure a lot of money, a lot of connections. If there's a world out there you want to save, maybe spend your days feeding the homeless instead of pretending to be kidnapped by the Israelis, dyeing water green and screaming about God knows what.
Oh my gosh.
Every single day. It's just pathetic. But again, I thought she was 12 years old. I had to remind myself she's the age I was when I got engaged and was planning my wedding. I think it might be time to grow up.
Yeah. She's had plenty of chances, plenty of opportunities. I think people have been kind of kind to her in the past when she was younger and delivering all these speeches, but her behaviour is just getting worse and worse. You mentioned Thanksgiving. It is approaching, and it is unfortunately a time where Liberals are encouraging boycotts over Thanksgiving. Of course, if you are related to someone that has a different political opinion. Here's Bill Maher with a message to Liberals this Thanksgiving.
A new rule, Happy Thanksgiving. I can't believe that even that now is a political issue. It is a real shame what's happened to this holiday, which used to be all about the good F's, food, friends, family, football, fun. And now it's you. You're not even invited because you voted for the wrong person. I'm so tired of liberals ghosting half this country. Conservatives do it too, but not nearly as much. Look, whoever's doing it, it's got to stop, because we're at a point now where politics has broken up more families than letting your wife see your phone.
Great message from Bill Maher there. The Liberals, will they listen?
I don't think that they will. They are angry. They are comfortable being angry. They are content being angry, and they will continue to be angry. Look, I have liberals coming to my Thanksgiving dinner. I have conservatives coming to my Thanksgiving dinner. I don't care, as long as you eat and you have fun and you watch football and you love this country and you love everything that Thanksgiving stands for. It's really not that complicated. And again, maybe, just maybe, it's not just about voting. Maybe it's about food and family and your community and so much more than who was in office that year. I love Donald Trump. I worked for him for 10 years. And if you didn't, you are still invited to my Thanksgiving table.
Oh, Elizabeth Pipko, it is so wonderful to speak to you. Thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour.